Besties! I started a book club, so I'm here to talk about it. Guys, honestly, over the past, I want to say 2 months, I have really found my love of reading again, and I'm so happy. I've genuinely read like maybe 5 or 6 books, and I also started a book club, so I thought we could have a big chat about all of the books I've read, what I'm loving, what I'm not loving, my ratings, and also my book club. This feels like very out of my comfort zone because it's quite scary starting something, knowing if anyone's going to join, but I started it today and there's already 30 people in the book club, which I know it really doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm so happy to have my little community over there. It's on Fable and this is what it's called. There'll be a link down below in the description if you want to join. We are just choosing our August read, which I will pop on screen what won the poll by the time I've edited this and what we'll be reading in August. I'll get this up in time, so if you want to join, you can and read along. But I'm so excited. The way I set it up is it's called Sip, Read, Repeat because I believe that I personally always love reading with a fun beverage, whether that's a coffee in the morning, a matcha in the afternoon, or a tea in the evening. I think that's the best thing to have when you're reading a book. So that's what the book club's called. And every month I'm going to try and choose 4 kind of different books, also taking suggestions, but I kind of want each book to be from a different genre. So we're not necessarily always reading romance, we're not always reading fantasy. I kind of want it to be maybe one option's a romance novel, maybe one's fantasy, maybe something is like 20th century fiction, something like that. So yeah, I'm so excited. Please come and join, and yeah, it's a very fun little community. Anyway, I thought we could have a yap about the books that I've read over the past 2 months since I've moved to London, what I'm loving, what I'm not loving, and what I've rated everything. Okay, so I've read 7 books over the past 7 weeks, and I'm gonna get into what they were and what I rated them. So the first book that I read was The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. Now, I am and always have been a huge Lucy Foley fan. I honestly love her book so much because the way she writes is basically each chapter is kind of like from the perspective of like a different character. So you kind of have maybe 5 characters on rotation and each chapter comes from a different perspective. And honestly, it makes the twists at the end so good, so unexpected. I have never guessed the end of a Lucy Foley book, and The Midnight Feast was no different. I think I rated this a 4.5 stars, which is so good, but honestly, I find them so easy to read. I finish them so quick always. I love the way she writes and her characters are so good, so believable. Honestly, just so good. I don't know if this was my favourite of hers. I honestly really liked, what was it called? The Guest List. I think that will forever be my favourite. I think it was the first one of hers I read, but I've read The Paris Apartment, I've read The Hunting Party, and The Midnight Feast was kind of like my last one in that kind of group that I hadn't read. So I'm really glad I read it, and if you've never read her before, would highly recommend delving into her. Okay, now after that, I'm not gonna lie, I went on a bit of a thrillers hype, and this was while I was moving to London, so I was having a lot of train rides, a lot of like moving in between. I needed something I could like eat up real quick, so I went on a bit of a Freida McFadden hype. I had read The Housemaid before it even came out, and I liked it because I just think it's like a good, easy read. So then I decided to read Never Lie, and I really liked this book, guys. I gave it a 4 stars, and I don't know, Freida McFadden, right? She doesn't have the best writing. I feel like we can all admit it's not the best. She's churning out like, she must have like 20 plus books. Like, she is churning out the thrillers. But this one, I thought it was okay. I didn't expect the twist. I read it really fast, I was engaged, I really wanted to get to the end, and honestly, if you're looking for a good thriller, I would highly recommend Never Lie. I think honestly that's one of her better ones, and I read it in about maybe like 2 days, not gonna lie, so very, very good. However, I then read The Inmate by Freida McFadden. I was like searching what's similar of hers to Never Lie because she had so many. I had no idea what to read next, but I was like really wanting another thriller. So I read The Inmate. Guys, I did not like this book. I gave it a 2 stars. I'm very sorry. This one was not it. The writing was really bad. I really, really didn't enjoy this one. I kind of guessed it from about like a third in, which made it not enjoyable. I almost kind of didn't want to finish it, but I did. But honestly, her books are quite hit and miss, so I would recommend Never Lie, but I wouldn't recommend The Inmate. However, if you just want a really, really easy thriller, go for that. Okay, so after that, I really wanted her to redeem herself, so I read The Boyfriend, and I liked this one more. I gave it a 3 stars. Not as good as Never Lie, but definitely better than The Inmate. I think this nearly put me off thrillers. Like, I feel like honestly when you read like 3 or 4 back to back, you start to think, okay, I understand the tropes that are going on. I think it's time to switch off. I really do like Freida McFadden as like a really quick, easy thriller read, so very good. But yeah, The Boyfriend, I said a classic thriller, not her best, not her worst. So if you're thinking about reading her, do Never Lie, do The Boyfriend, do The Inmate, or don't do The Inmate, it's not that good. And then anyway, like I said, after that, I had one thriller left in me. So I asked on my Instagram, which is at jazz.olivia, by the way, who was similar to Freida McFadden, because I was like, I need to change up the author. And I decided to pick up His and Hers by Alice Feeney, because a lot of people had recommended her as a writer, and I liked it. It was a page turner, it was unexpected. I think I gave it 3.5 or 3.75 maybe. I feel like honestly the writing was a lot better in this. It was a little bit longer, a bit more in depth, very much more character focused. It's kind of a bit like Lucy Foley. It has different perspective, but it's from kind of like his, obviously, and hers perspective, so it flicks between the two. The twist did not become obvious till about maybe 60 pages towards the end, so it was super good. But after this, I had to tap out of the thrillers. I always do this. I either go on like a fantasy road or a thriller road or a romance road. I'll read like 4 and then time to tap out. But I've heard she has some really good other ones. So if you guys have any other recommendations of any other Alice Feeney books, I would love to hear that because I did like this. Okay, next I read what I think could be one of my favourite books of 2026, and I totally switched up the genres here. I decided to read the book Mongrel, which I think is classed probably as just like contemporary literary fiction, and genuinely it could be my favourite read of 2026. I'm not exaggerating, it was so good. I forgot how much I like those kind of books. The way I would describe it is it kind of follows 3 different Japanese girls navigating childhood, growing up, all the things that females go through. Some are in London, some move to different areas in Japan, and it is just a really lovely, heartbreaking story about womanhood and growing up. And it also had some twists and turns that I was really not expecting. Definitely read the content warnings on this book before you read it, just because there are a few topics that might upset some people, but genuinely it was incredible. I loved the writing. There was almost some like poetry in there at points, and yeah, it was just a really, really well thought out book. It was amazing, and I'm pretty sure that author has only written 1 or 2 books, so yeah, I gave that a 5 stars and I loved it. I would highly recommend reading that if you're into books like that. I want to read more books like that. I actually did put Blue Sisters on my poll for August reads, and I do believe it's doing quite well, so that could win. If not, I'll probably still read it because I think it's probably kind of quite similar in terms of genre. Okay, and this brings me on to my 7th and final read. And for this, I went back into fantasy. I actually joined Sophia Tuxford's book club read this month. They were reading Daggermouth, and again, it was on Kindle Unlimited, so I thought, do you know what? Let me join in. I had no idea what to read next. The last fantasy thing I read was ACOTAR, maybe like 4 months ago, and I had to like lay off fantasy for a while because I loved it so much that it made me so sad and I felt like I couldn't touch another fantasy for a while. So I read Daggermouth and I loved it. I gave it a 4.5 stars. It was really, really good. The writing was great. The twists were so good. It was kind of described as a sort of Hunger Games book, and I loved it. I thought it was so good. There was a lot of spice. It was spicy. But it was really, really good. I kind of raced through this as well, and I believe book 2 is coming out very soon. So I kind of really love reading series or smaller series because if you like the first book, you can just continue on with the rest of the series, which is great. But if you don't like it, you can just sack it off. So yes, that now brings me on to my current read, which I've actually decided to read the first book of the Off-Campus series because I watched it and I loved it and I saw everyone reading the books, and usually I don't personally like to read the book of a series after I've seen the series or the film. I feel like you should always read the book first. However, apparently there's like 4 or 5 books in this series, and the Off-Campus kind of like series that we watched is only book 1. So I thought, well, maybe I'll read the whole series. And honestly, I love the book. It's actually quite different to the series, which I'm very glad about because otherwise I feel like I'd just be reading what I've just watched. But I'm really liking it. It's such a quick read. I feel like it's just going to be a very happy, solid, like 4-star for me. So yeah, I'm really, really enjoying that. And I guess the next proper book I'll be reading will be what wins the August book club poll. In the poll, we have Part of Your World, Quicksilver, Blue Sisters and Giovanni's Room. So let's see what's gonna win. I voted for Part of Your World because I think for August I need a romance read. I haven't read a romance, as you will have just seen, for the past 7 books. And I've heard Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, I believe, is giving Emily Henry vibes, and I'm the biggest Emily Henry stan ever. I've read every single one of her books. I love her. So I hope it is, and there's 3 books in the series, so I feel like that'll be the perfect way to like round off summer, giving really big August energy. So that's my vote. However, I really do want to read Quicksilver, so if this doesn't win, I think it's giving a really good autumn fantasy book. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and I believe there's maybe 2 or 3 books in that series too. Blue Sisters, I already mentioned that I really, really do want to read this book. It's by the same author that did Cleopatra and Frankenstein. I did really like that book. I don't read a lot of those kind of like contemporary fiction books, and I want to read more. And then Giovanni's Room is actually a book my sister recommended to me, and I believe it's Zendaya's favourite book as well. Very different. I believe it's about a man in the 1950s navigating like sexuality. So I do really want to read that at some point. I believe it's only 150 pages, so that will definitely be getting attacked at some point. Thank you so much for chatting with me about the past 7 books that I've read and what I'm enjoying and not enjoying recently. One thing I definitely am enjoying is my Kindle. I only bought this like 2 months ago and I got Kindle Unlimited and I'm so obsessed. I'm gonna link this down below if you want to join me, and also my Kindle Unlimited, because they basically add hundreds of free titles to Kindle Unlimited every month or couple of months. It changes, and you just kind of pay a subscription, so it will all be linked down below. And yeah, if you want to join my book club, this is it. Follow me on Fable. follow me on social media, and have a lovely rest of your day, besties.